is that we have guests come on and share their stories of forgiving someone, and always learn something every single week. It can look different in different people's lives. So we talk about that dynamic aspect of forgiveness, and so what that concrete definition looks like in different people's lives and the different directions it can take. After that, we have a forgiveness challenge every single week. This week is going to be a little bit different, but I'm going to tell you what I mean by forgiveness challenge. So every week we talk about a aspect of forgiveness that is either misunderstood or may present a challenge for us. How can we overcome that challenge? Now, this week, guys, we are not doing a forgiveness challenge. I am going to be releasing, instead of doing the forgiveness challenge, I'm going to be making an official statement tonight from myself on the crisis in Ukraine. As many of you know, I spent a great deal of time in Ukraine. I have a lot of friends in Ukraine. I put a lot of time and effort carefully crafting every single word of this statement. I really, really hope that it'll be an impactful statement for you. It's something that I really hope that will challenge you and encourage you and inspire you at the same time, and hopefully motivate you guys. But it is definitely a very challenging statement as well. It's not going to be maybe the easiest message for us to hear, but I think it's an important one. Then we're going to talk about a story of forgiveness from popular culture, from current events, or from the Forgiveness Project book, which is the inspiration for the show. Boss Bro, thank you. Which is the inspiration for the show. Now, this week we are sharing a story from the Forgiveness Project book about a man who was in a Bosnian internment camp and what it was like forgiving his captors. This guy is, this story that you're going to hear is really, really powerful. I think it's really going to maybe change your perceptions about forgiveness a little bit. And it's definitely going to touch your heart if you stay for that. And I encourage you, even after I summarize that story, to go read the full story on the website. And then, of course, we have our featured guest this week, D'Angelo Jones, in the house. Guys, I talked a little bit to him already about his story. And I can tell you with very certainty, it's going to be a little bit different than our normal stories, but one that I definitely think that you can benefit from and take a lot away from. So make sure you stay tuned for the entire show to hear D'Angelo, who's right there in the comment section. I love it when my guests are here at the beginning. I don't have to freak out. Like, are they coming? Are they coming? So now, before we get started, guys, and before we dive into the content, I want to do a few housekeeping things. First and foremost, our guests come on each week and they talk about deeply personal and private information for the purpose of basically public service, guys. They talk about this so that you can be benefited, so that you can take away for something. So hopefully you can be motivated and inspired by their story to explore forgiveness in your life and mental wellness in your life. So I'm going to ask that everybody be extremely respectful. This is a lot different from the rules of my normal live stream. If you come in my normal live stream, pretty much anything goes, as long as you're not like overly racist or vulgar. Pretty much anything goes. That's not going to happen tonight. This is featured content. We're not going to tolerate any kind of disrespect, any kind of rudeness towards myself, towards the content, or towards our guest, D'Angelo. Now, I want to make a special comment on this week. During my statement, guys, I know that there are a lot of people with very charged feelings about what's going on in Ukraine right now. And I know that we're going to have comments probably during that segment. I'm going to ask my bouncer to be lenient, but also firm. Let people express what they feel about that, as long as they're being respectful. But if we see anything with the F word, if we see anything hate-filled, if we see anything like that, we can go ahead and remove them, bouncer. But I understand there's a lot of charged feelings for that, so I'm going to try to encourage my bouncer to be a little bit lenient during that segment, just because I know that there's a lot of charged feelings about that. But we are going to remain respectful. Last thing before we get started, guys, is I am not a mental health expert. I am someone who believes in forgiveness. I'm a champion and advocate of forgiveness. If you hear something tonight that triggers you, if you hear something tonight that makes you realize that you need professional mental health advice or mental health treatment, we really encourage you to do that. If you need professional help, please seek that help. Please don't think that I'm not trying to cure any mental illness here. I am not a mental health expert. I'm just an advocate for forgiveness. And I think that forgiveness is a very important first step and crucial step in healing. So let's get started, guys. Let's get started as we do every week, talking about the definition of forgiveness. Very important that we all get on the same page when we're talking. Oh, one more thing before I get started. Thank you for everyone for being here. Thank you for all the gifts, guys. Everything that you give me is reinvested back into the app. If I don't specifically thank you, like I'm not specifically thanking Tamara for that heart, I want to go ahead and thank you in advance. All gifts are welcome and appreciated. They are invested into good people and good content on this app. So thank you in advance for all the gifts. If I'm trying my best to see comments, but when I have my guests in the box and when I am engaging in the content, I will not read your comment out loud. I probably am seeing it, but please just keep in mind, I'm doing the content, so I can't read the comments out loud. So, but you are being seen. And please make sure we save all questions towards the end. Okay, let's get started about the definition of forgiveness. Again, it's really important that we're all on the same page about this because a lot of people have very different ideas of what forgiveness is. And if we don't get on the same page, then we may have different ideas about what it is, and we may be disagreeing, and we may not all be together on what the definition is, and we might be able to have significant disagreements. So for the purposes of this show, guys, I'm going with the definition that's very close to what you'll find if you look in the dictionary or the thesaurus, Merriam-Webster's, or any dictionary that you look up. The definition of forgiveness that we're going with is the releasing the right to hate and releasing the right to revenge, and in so doing, releasing ourselves from the chains of victimhood. I'm going to say that again. Forgiveness is releasing the right to hate and releasing the right to revenge, and in so doing, releasing ourselves from the chains of victimhood. Now, why is this definition so important? Well, first of all, it goes against our very nature. And because what happens when someone hurts us, right? When someone hurts us, if someone comes up and punches you in the face, what is our reaction? What do we want to do? We want to hit them back, right? If somebody hurts us, we want to hurt them back. Or at the very least, we want to see them hurt in the same way that we're hurt. Now, that's a very normal reaction, and it seems to make sense, right? It seems to make sense that if someone hurts us, we want to see them hurt back. And while that's a very natural response, it's not the healthiest of responses. Because let's explain why. When someone hurts us, guys, when someone hurts us, what do you think that they're doing with their life? Do you think that they care about the fact that they hurt you? They're off living their lives. They're off doing whatever it is that they're doing. They're not thinking about how they hurt you. So when we hold on to unforgiveness, and when we hold on to that right to hate someone, that right to revenge, we are actually, even though it may feel like we're holding on to some kind of power, right? It feels like we're holding on to some kind of like serious power or some toughness or some misguided sense of self-preservation and protection. It's really giving that person more power, the person who hurts us, because what happens is that person's off living their life. They're not thinking about how they hurt you. They're not thinking about the wrong that they did to you. They're just doing whatever it is that they do. The person that's holding on to that, the person that's being affected by that day in and day out is you. You're the one who is holding on to that. So what happens is we hold on to this misguided sense of protection and power. If we hold on to this hatred, if we hold on to this resentment, right, then we're somehow protecting ourselves. But what happens is that hatred that we're carrying around, that toxicity that we're carrying around, is going to be misdirected towards other people in our lives. It's going to be misdirected towards our family. It's going to be misdirected towards our friends. Who's heard of that term, that phrase, hurt people hurt people? Such a true thing. So this person who you're holding on to this hatred for, this person that you're holding on to this resentment for, they're not concerned about what you're doing, most likely. They're just living off their lives. Who's affected by your hatred, who's affected by that resentment that you're holding on to, is the people that you interact with on a daily basis. And most importantly, it's affecting you. Now, keep this in mind. Write this down if you're going to write anything down. Forgiveness is first and foremost for ourselves. Forgiveness is first and foremost for ourselves. It's not for the other person, okay? And let me explain why. Forgiveness is not pardoning. When we forgive somebody, when we release that hatred, when we release that resentment, and we release that revenge, we are not saying that there's no consequences of that person's actions. We're not excusing that person's actions. What we're saying when we're forgiving is that we are not going to let that person's actions dictate how we are going to live. It's about freedom. It's about taking our power back. You're right. It doesn't erase. And there are consequences when somebody hurts us, right? And those consequences can look very different depending on what those actions are. If someone hurts us very deeply in a relationship, that might mean a breakup. It may mean that person's no longer in our life. If the offense is serious enough, it could even mean jail and prison time. But it's not letting that go. It's not forgetting what that person did. It's not excusing that person. What it's saying is, I am no longer going to let hate hurt my life because of what you did. I'm not going to give you that power, because while we have that misguided sense of power when we hold on to unforgiveness, what we're actually doing is giving that person more power over us, because now whatever they did that's already in the past is affecting your present. It's affecting your future. And not only that, when we hold on to that hatred and resentment and toxicity, most likely, like I said earlier, it's going to come out and the interactions we have with everyday people. So now, not only does that person have power over us, that person has power over our loved ones. Why would you want to give your aggressor, why would you want to give your offender more power over you and over the people that you care about? Haven't they done enough when they hurt you? Do you want to give them more? Now, this is not easy, guys. And I'm not just saying, for a lot of us, we can't just snap our fingers when someone hurts us, when someone betrays us, when someone cheats on us. We can't just go, oh, you know what? It's cool. I forgive them. It's over. Sometimes it's a journey. Sometimes it takes time. Sometimes releasing that hatred, because it's such a natural response, sometimes that takes work. And you may be sitting there tonight and you're hearing what I'm saying and you're like, I get it. I don't want to live with that weight on my shoulders, but I'm not there yet. I get that. And that's okay. What we would encourage you to do is start taking steps toward exploring how forgiveness can free you. Because remember, that second part of the statement is releasing the right. We have the first part of the definition, releasing the right to hate, releasing the right to revenge. And in so doing, what's the second part of that statement? Releasing ourselves from the chains of victimhood. Does anybody out there want to be a victim? Does anybody out there want to be a victim? I know I don't. So that's why that second part of the definition is so crucial, because when we do release that hatred, when we do no longer allow that person's action to dictate my today, to dictate to my tomorrow, I'm going to live free of what you did. We are releasing ourselves from the chains of victimhood. Now, before we move on, I want to pay special attention to that word right. That word right to hate. It's not just releasing hatred and revenge. It's releasing the right to hatred and revenge. Now, why is that word right so important? Because someone may hurt you, right? And you may not be actively hating them on a day-to-day basis. You may not actively be seeking revenge against them. But how many times, put a 1 in the comment section if this is you, how many times has someone hurt you and you're not taking revenge against someone, but you think to yourself, I hope somebody gets them. I hope somebody gets them the way they got me. I hope they get what they deserve. I hope somebody hurts them the way they hurt me. That's mental energy that you don't need to give to that person. They don't deserve your mental energy. If they hurt you, they don't deserve it. Don't give them that energy. So even if we're not taking active hatred in our lives, even if we're not taking active revenge against that person, we're still, if we don't release the right to hate them, and we don't release that right to take revenge that we so feel that we deserve, we are allowing that baggage to take up mental and emotional energy in our lives that we can be directed towards our own success and towards our own future. Why give them that space, guys? Now, sometimes, guys, under the right circumstances, when someone shows remorse, reconciliation is possible if they come to you in a conciliatory nature, and sometimes trust can be rebuilt, and that's great. But sometimes forgiveness does not always lead to reunification. And whether or not it does, it doesn't change your action of releasing that hatred and animosity and freeing yourself, right? The rest is on the other person. If they want to do the work to show remorse, if they want to do the work to be sorry for what they did, then you can possibly work toward the reunification. But put a 1 in the comment section if you've forgiven someone but have told them you're no longer part of my life. I've forgiven you, but you're not part of my life anymore. And that's okay. But we're not going to wish this person harm. We're not going to wish this person evil. We're not going to wish this person destruction, because that's mental energy that we could be using on ourselves. I mean, we say this quote every week, guys. Just because I want you to eat doesn't mean I want you at my dinner table, right? That's okay. Sometimes reconciliation is possible. Sometimes it's not. It depends on the situation. Like I said, every forgiveness is different. But that act of releasing that right to hate, releasing that right to revenge, and freeing and releasing yourself from the chains of victimhood is the same no matter what it is. And that's what's going to lead to your freedom. And that's going to lead you to living your healthiest life. One more thing, because I just love this quote so much. Unforgiveness is like drinking poison and hoping someone else dies. Unforgiveness is like drinking poison and hoping somebody else dies. You think that you're holding on to some kind of power. You think that you're holding on to some kind of self-preservation by holding on to that hatred and that resentment, but you're not. You're hurting yourself. It's a natural response to hate. That's why we got to retrain ourselves to make sure that we're doing what's right for us. All right. That's the static definition of forgiveness. Now, again, guys, the dynamic aspects of forgiveness can look very different. And we're going to hear about one of those stories from our guests a little bit later, D'Angelo, who's going to tell us his forgiveness story. And that, again, guys, that forgiveness in action can look like a lot of different things. It can look like cutting someone out of our life. It could look like reconciling with someone. It looks very different. What really matters is that first part, and then let the second part take care of itself. And you can explore in each situation what's right for you. Now, normally, guys, if you're just joining us, this is Forgiveness Culture, where we explore the path to hope and peace that forgiveness can offer us each week. Normally, guys, we do a forgiveness challenge every week where we talk about a different aspect of forgiveness that may be a little bit challenging for us when we're trying to live a life of forgiveness culture. This week is going to be a little bit different, guys. As many of you know, I spent some time in Ukraine, and there is a crisis going on. And I have very, very carefully crafted a statement and a response to what's going on that I really feel could benefit all of us. It's going to challenge you, and hopefully it will motivate you. So if my people who are screen recording could go ahead and tell me when they're ready, because I want to make sure that this is available, because I have had several people tell me that they can't be here, so they want to make sure they see it. So guys, this is a statement regarding the crisis in Ukraine, and I'm going to read it verbatim. So here it goes. The following is an official statement from myself and from the stream about the crisis in Ukraine. This message is not political, but is rather an appeal to moral reason. I join with the people of the world in shock, horror, and despair at the tragedy that has unfolded this past week in Ukraine. As many of you know, I served for almost 3 years as a humanitarian volunteer in Ukraine. It is and will always be a second home for me. Watching the land I once lived in and the people there I call family and friends live in fear and agony haunts me every moment of the day. I urge good people of every nation, origin, and creed to call upon and press world leaders to oppose war and work towards peace. Nobody enjoys war, and if there are people that do, they should be the last ones to engage in it. The people involved in this conflict are brothers, fathers, sons, and children. I stand firmly with the people of Ukraine, with resolve from the depths of my heart for peace. But let me be clear, we are not to turn to hatred during this time. The Russian people are not evil, and they do not deserve hate of any kind. The despicable actions of misguided leaders are not to be attributed to innocent people. This includes Russian citizens who consider Ukrainian people to be their brothers and sisters. My remarks tonight are not a commentary on the war. They are not a commentary on the factors and influences causing the war, nor are they an opinion or critique on what should be done to achieve peace. My remarks tonight address the response, reaction, and attitudes of each and every one of us. The reasons behind my remarks are straightforward. This is a critically fragile period of time, a period ripe for emotional reactivity and, unfortunately, opportunities for hatred. History has taught us that if we are not careful and intentional in channeling our outrage through healthy motives, we may be ensnared into hatred's dangerous and destructive pitfall. If you are angry tonight, I understand. If you long for justice, I understand. If you are in despair, I understand. If you are scared about what is going on, I understand. I share in some of these sentiments, but we must remain vigilant to stand up for what we believe in and protect those we love without demonizing undeserving parties. There are likely viewers watching right now from all over the world. Such a beautiful opportunity this platform has provided for us to so connect. But most of us are Americans, and often when denouncing the hatred of major evil in the world, we ignore our own. We are quick to confront and condemn the actions of Hitler and the Japanese, for example, during World War II. But we usually neglect to remember the racist and hate-filled responses of some Americans and policymakers during that time, who set up internment camps, enslaving Asian Americans who were ordinary citizens. We remember the horrific attack to our homeland on September 11, but we casually forget the racist and vulgar actions and attitudes towards many innocent Muslims and Arab people living in America during that time, many of whom were attacked and even killed on the streets because of hate-filled, emotional reactivity. We must not allow this to happen now. Evil must be fought with strength, but evil cannot be defeated by more evil. I bring these examples to your attention tonight not to shame anyone or fill you with guilt. I say this as a warning. Now more than ever is the time for us to stand together in unity. This tragedy provides a remarkable opportunity for us to demonstrate love and support for our Ukrainian friends. It simultaneously provides the opportunity for us to show our humanity towards our Russian friends. The poisonous effects that unforgiveness has on us individually are amplified when we allow ourselves to misappropriate resentment and toxicity on entire groups of people. It also stokes the flames of hatred in those who take extremist responses to hatred, and it normalizes that hatred for all of us. This will damage peace. So let us instead normalize humanity. Let us show the full power of love through our voices and our action. Love is the most powerful force in the universe. It is our strongest weapon in keeping us together. Whatever feelings you have toward this matter, I get it, and your feelings are valid. Whatever those feelings are, I encourage you to do what you believe is right. But make sure those actions are anchored in an informed and healthy perspective that rejects hate, even if pursuing justice. Forgiveness, remember, does not excuse injustices. It does not release wrongdoers from consequences to their actions. Forgiveness releases us from the chains of victimhood, chains that lead to further injustice. So live and respond free from these chains, all of us, collectively. Forgiveness culture goes beyond releasing the right to hate and seek revenge against the people who hurt only ourselves. It is about creating an atmosphere where hope and peace can flourish, an atmosphere where acts of hate do not lead to more acts of hate. May God bless Ukraine, and may God bless the rest of the world. Thank you. So that was my official response. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am going to post that later, so if you did come in at a midway or didn't got to see all of it, I am going to be reposting that. So thank you for everyone for your attention in that matter. And if you're just joining us, welcome to Forgiveness Culture, where every single week we explore the power of hope and peace that forgiveness can offer in all of our lives. We are almost ready for our featured guest of the week, D'Angelo Jones, who's kicking it in the comment sections right now. Thank you for those gifts there, by the way, guys. But before we do, guys, I'm going to share a story from the Forgiveness Project book really quickly. Every week we talk about a story of forgiveness from current events or popular culture or the Forgiveness Project book. Now, this story is from a man called Kamal Pervanovich. I can't say this guy's name. Kamal Pervanich. He is a survivor of the Omarska concentration camp that was set up by Bosnian Serb forces in the early days of the Bosnian War. When the Soviet Union fell, Kamal, who is a Muslim, was living in Bosnia, and Bosnian Serb forces took over the country. And one of the consequences of that was that Muslims were rounded up and put into internment camps, and Kamal was among them. He was there for months with his brother and feared for his life. He thought he was going to die. The conditions of the internment camp were very, very bad. Almost no food. There were like 2 toilets in the entire camp for like thousands of people. Nowhere to sleep. Really, really bad living situations. And eventually, Kamal was able to flee from the situation and immigrate towards England. And after he left the internment camp and went to start his new life in England, he was filled with an immense amount of trauma and rage, as I'm sure any of us could understand. He had several mental breakdowns, and he said he was so filled with rage towards his captors that he used to imagine torturing them. He used to imagine doing terrible things to his captors because he was so filled with hate for what he went through. He actually went back 10 years later after the war had more or less subsided. It was safe for him to go back to this village. And he thought this would be a freeing experience from him because he was so filled with this anguish that he was holding on to from what happened to him in the internment camp. He was just consumed by it. He thought if he went back to his home and saw now how it was better and it was freer, it would make him feel better, but it didn't. Kamal said that he had another emotional breakdown after visiting his home. Now, the problem with the Kamal story is that the Serbian force that captured him and took over the country and forced the Muslims into internment camps. The problem with that is they were ordinary citizens. These weren't people from the outside. These were forces that were recruited by the new forces in the country. These were his neighbors. A lot of them were people he went to school with, and he could not believe that the people that he went to school with would be facilitators in this evil regime of concentration camps and terror. He remembers seeing one of his former schoolmates and who was involved in this force that captured him. And he remembered confronting him when he went back to the country and saying, "How could you do this? How could you allow this to happen?" And the man didn't have an answer for him. He went back home. He had another mental breakdown, as I said, after he went back home, and he realized that the mental anguish and the emotional breakdowns that he was experiencing was as a result of holding on to that hatred for so long. And he realized that even though these people deserved the hate, even though these people deserved, that those feelings of toxicity towards him, he said that wasn't helping him. Those people were off in another world. They weren't thinking about him every day, but he's been living now for almost 15 years in anguish, not being able to live his full life because he was allowing that hate to consume him. He said it was not a conscious decision to forgive, but rather a journey. But he came to realize that the hatred was necessary for him to live his best life. He said, I didn't stop hating because he's a good person. He said, I stopped hating because continuing to hate would have finished the job that these forces had started. He realized that by continuing to hate these people and by continuing to allow himself to be consumed by the hatred from his captors, he was continuing the job that they had started. He said eventually he was able to, with time, forgive what happened, let it go, and his mental anguish had started to subside. He didn't need as much mental health therapy and trauma focused care. And then a few years later, this is actually a pretty interesting story. He went back to Bosnia. This is after he had already forgiven. And he actually saw one of the former camp guards on the side of the road. And he started to laugh. And his friend, who he was with at the time, why are you laughing? He said he saw this former camp guard, and he wasn't angry. He didn't want to hurt the man anymore. He said he remembered how much of a monster this man was when he was in the internment camp. And now this man was actually homeless on the side of the road looking for hitchhikers. So this man who had once represented such evil and power over his life was now this lowly guy begging for a ride. He said, we often want to describe people as monsters, but you'd be surprised at the hate that people are capable of if they allow themselves to be participants. He said, but one thing he can say for sure, regardless of the monster of that this man was, he said, doesn't have any influence over his life anymore. And now he lives in England. He's the author of a book. He's married and actually works for a charity that helps promote peace and tolerance in Bosnia. So I truncated that a lot, guys, as I tend to do every week with these stories, because I want to make time for our guests. But I encourage you to look up this story. It's on the Forgiveness Project website. The guy's name, one more time, is Kamal Pervanic. I'm sure if you search it, anywhere close, it'll come up for it. But amazing story. I truncated it. There's a much fuller story. I encourage you guys to read it on the website. And again, this is Forgiveness Culture. If you're just joining us, this is a show where we host guests every week who talk about the hope and peace that can be found in forgiveness. So let's get to our guest, guys. Our guest this week is an up-and-coming rising star on the app. His name is DeAngelo Jones, and he's going to share a story with us tonight. So please, y'all, welcome Mr. DeAngelo Jones.
Hey, everybody.
DeAngelo, how are you, sir?
Appreciate you for having me. And
oh, man, it's an honor to have you. So tell us, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself for those of us who may not know who you are.
I am DeAngelo Jones. I'm a member of the Trophy family. You probably see the trophies in there.
I wonder where all those trophies were coming from, man. I was like, am I a champion? Am I earning some award or something?
So I got a featured show on the app called Cut Off with DeAngelo Jones on Sunday at 6 p.m. where we invite 4 special guests onto the show, and we keep it theme-related topics. And you actually been a guest on the show.
Loved it.
It was honored to have you.
Guys, y'all make sure to favorite him and go watch his show, because it was a pleasure, and it's a great show. It's one of the better shows on this app.
And I appreciate you being on the show. He was on the show way before it was even like featured. Like
yes. I gotta make it back, man. I gotta make my return, you know.
And can I say this real fast? I know you gotta get on with the show, but
sure.
Remarks to Ukraine. And I appreciate you sharing that with us and being open. And that's why I took your show. I actually turned down a few shows to just focus on your show because like I respect you and your vibe and your live. Like this is your content and I believe in it. And I like doing shows that like I can really genuinely support and believe in. And you've been a good brother to me on this app. So make sure y'all stay more miserable.
I really appreciate that. And you've got a story for us here tonight. And I'm really excited to get to dig into it. Now, who is your story about?
Okay, so it's about a girl that I was really in love with.
Okay. All right, tell us about it.
Okay, so I had started like hanging out with this chick like at a party. I came back from college, met this chick. I thought she was somebody else. Actually, I thought she was her sister. And she wasn't her sister. I went to school with her sister, but they kind of looked alike, right? But I was friends with her sister, and we ended up hanging out, and we ended up becoming like good friends. And then we started dating, and we dated for like a year and a half after I came back from college, and we kind of like thought we like should get serious. So like I was like kind of scared of being like engaged. I'm not gonna lie. I was
okay.
I was like 23, so I was like I don't really know, you know. But like I felt like this was the girl for me, right?
Right.
So I didn't know. But anyway, that New Year's came around and we found out she was expecting, and we had like our daughter. And like, so everything was fine. Like everything was like peaches and roses for real. Like when you say you think this is the one for you, like I think this is the one for me. Like we took trips, like literally out of the country, in the country, all around, staycations, vacations. Like it was a joy. It was like a real joy, right? Well, after the kid came, like we kind of grappled with that a little bit about like being able to go out and go like on these vacations. And like I was 23, she was like 21. So she was like still like, oh, we should have more time to go out. And then, you got your parents involved at the time. You got your mom and dad and their mom and dad. And at that age, they're all like still trying to mentor you and tell you what you should be doing and what you should not be doing. And like, so she kind of felt restricted at the time because she was a wonderful mom and a wonderful girlfriend for real. But she couldn't like we had a disagreement on the going out. Like so we had conversations and we talked and we talked and I'm like, well, we can't really be going out like that. And
Right.
so when my daughter was like 2.5 months, like I had the realization, I gave her an ultimatum, like, hey, we gotta either do this for real, we gotta like get married, and we gotta like, live life. And all that'll come later. We gotta build life. Well, she said, okay, okay. Then a week later, she said, I don't think so. She said, I think I should just like, I love you, but I think like you should take care of the kid and we can co-parent. And because we have two different visions at this time, like you kind of changed with the kid. And I was like crushed. I was like crushed.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, I was crushed. I really thought like this chick was the one for me. Like when you say you found them, right? Because like when you say personalities match, when you say like like you can finish somebody's sentences, when you say like y'all just can
Yeah.
sit in a room and the TV don't have to be on, and y'all well entertained, and y'all just hanging out, and y'all having fun, and you don't need nothing around you to have fun, but just enjoy y'all company.
And and when you lose that, it's not just losing that person. It's your whole world crashes down. Everything that you had constructed for yourself in your entire worldview just comes crumbling down, and it's like you have to start over from the rubble and be like, okay, now where do I go?
Exactly. Especially like being 23 and like a 3-month-old kid, and you just been traveling like literally around the world. Party, you just came back from Cancun before she was born, like, and now you're like by myself. Like,
Yeah,
oh wow. So it was hard. So I mean, and like that could create hate for a person.
for
And
sure. Oh yeah.
that could like really like destroy a person and make a person not really want to like be in tune with that person. Cause I mean, it's like they kind of abandoned you.
Oh yeah. Big time. I understand, believe me.
And
I understand.
nobody likes to be abandoned, right? I mean, and we're
Right.
guys, but you don't normally get this. And so I thought well about this show, and I'm like, if I'm going to share my life with anybody, I'm gonna share it on more show.
And
And
it's when someone does that, it's like, especially if it's someone that is your person, that you would do anything in the world for, and that you would love no matter what, and it seems like they just leave so easily. It's just like, it's a gut punch that cannot be explained. It's just like, how could the one person that I would do anything for just throw me away so easily? It's like, it can even be emasculating in a way, because you're like, what? Wait, what? You're just like, what? But this isn't about me. This is about you. Go ahead.
no,
I'm
exactly.
getting a little bit off course
Glad-
here.
I'm just like glad you can relate to that. Like, man, it's
Oh,
just because
definitely, man,
like
definitely.
most women don't know guys are vulnerable too, and we want to be loved, and like we go
Absolutely.
through hurt and emotions as well as them, and sometimes we just don't show it. And so that's why I picked this story to tell. But so as the time progressed, co-parenting was like its best or worst, like because we both had still mixed emotions, and then like we would still like meet up and hang out here and there. Then that didn't work out,
No.
and so that went on for like 4 or 5 months, and then I finally just like cut her off and like grew this hatred towards her that like I despised her. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't hate her. I despised her because I felt like she was running her life. She started running around with a whole different crowd of people and hanging out on the night scene, just like dancing, clubbing, like no script or nothing like that. Just like, you know, partying, you know, being 21, you know, just enjoying life, you know. And I was at home, you know, taking care of the kid
Right.
and like watching like the Facebook pictures and everybody hanging out. I'm at home with the kid. That kind of like hurts. And so you despise a person for that. And like it
It,
was
I absolutely completely relate to what you're saying there, and there's a level of injustice there, especially when the other person is the one to leave, whenever the other person is the one to walk away, and you're like, wait a minute, I'm the one who wanted to fight for this, I'm the one who did everything right here, why are you getting to go live your best life when I'm the one who did everything right?
exactly. And that's not easy to do, especially being that young. And I'm not, and I just want to put that out there too. Like she's a good mom today, and she was always a good mom. Like I can't say that she was a bad mom. I can't tell you that. All I can say is she was still like we was at two different phases in our life, and people change and people fall out of love. Like, and that actually does happen. So like she was never a bad mom or like a bad girlfriend. She just made the conscious decision, okay, I'm gonna cut this off, regardless of how you feeling. I gotta do what's best for me. And that was the part that hurt. So after them 6 months, I didn't like other than like meeting with my parents in between, the co-parent with the kid, you know, um, I don't know where like at 2 o'clock in the morning, she hit me up and was asking me for help. And I'm like, what? And she was just like, she had wanted to go to a treatment center and she just wanted to go to counseling and she just needed help. And then she said she remembered no matter what, she remember I told her no matter what, if you actually needed help, call me. And if you're serious, I'm gonna help you. Well, I gotta be honest with you more. It ain't easy to forgive anybody, and I wasn't ready to forgive her. And
Right.
especially not calling me at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
I'm like, at this point, I'm not changing diapers no more. She wear pull-ups. Like, I shouldn't be interrupted at 2 a.m. in the morning for
Right.
no reason. I have
Exactly.
to work at 6 a.m., you know?
Right.
And so, you know, I actually thought about it. And she messaged me the next day and said she understand if I didn't want to help, but she appreciated if I did. And this wasn't no cheap help. This was, I don't want to put a dollar amount on it. Just I
Now,
went to work.
you mentioned treatment. Are you comfortable sharing what she needed treatment for?
Okay, so Centerpoint treatment facilities treat drug abuse, battered women, battered men, mental health, mental illness. They diagnose you, they got their own treatment center and hospital. Okay, so to be honest with you, I took her there, I paid the money, I sat there with her, and I waited there with her, but I was not allowed to go in the back. So actually, I can't tell you to this day because patient client confidentiality agreement what she actually got treated for because I just know it costed a large amount of money. And I didn't know because that's between client and patient. So I never got to know, and she never ever told me what what actually happened behind closed doors. I know she stayed there for a month and a half, and when she came out, she was on the right path for a while. But people got to understand that people are always in recovery, and so that's like, you know, I don't know how to deal with that, but she's a good friend of mine to this day. She's an awesome mom. I forgave her since then, but she really tries in the right direction now, you know, to better her
So,
life since she got that help and since she's got that counseling and since she gets the support from her family because this chick by no means she come from means like so they're wealthy.
yeah. At what point did you realize that you got to the point where you had actually forgiven her for what happened?
When she completed the program. It
And
was
what was it about completing the treatment program that kind of activated that forgiveness in you?
because it showed me that she was trying to change. She made an attempt because she always a call or message me on Facebook and say, I'm going to change and I got this job and I'm not hanging out no more with that crowd and to be lies. But like she actually went through with it. So I had to give her respect for that. And then that I can thank God softened my heart to see that people can change and she was trying to make an effort to change.
Right. Now, when you said before this, before you got to the point where you had were able to forgive her, how did not forgiving her, how did that affect your life?
Well, I mean, like, let's face it, when you're in love with somebody, you don't want to let that love go. And then you try to figure out, you grapple with like figuring out what you did wrong, what could you done better. And so you don't want to open up to nobody else because you got to work on yourself. Because that was like, guys, that was a 4 year relationship before we ever had a kid. So you got to figure out who you are again. I haven't dated in 4 years. I haven't had nobody else. I don't know how it's like to date. I'm scared to date. I don't want to talk to nobody else. I don't want to be vulnerable again. Can somebody just walk out of your life like that again?
Absolutely.
So it was hard mentally dealing with the aspects of it's like being left at the altar.
Oh yeah.
And so I pride myself on being able to be friends with her today. Cause in a way, like I still find that messed up. But I hold no ill will towards her. Like we can sit in
Right.
a room and eat dinner and talk like adults and laugh and joke.
Do you think that holding on to the unforgiveness for so long prevented you from making the progress that you needed to in order to develop yourself? Like, do you think that held you back from making meaningful connections and actually taking chances?
Yeah, because I closed myself off for a year after that. And then when I opened myself up, I really wasn't willing to or ready to open myself up after that. Because I was still harboring that of how that happened. And so it affected my choices and my judgment and it clouded it.
Yeah.
And it was all based and it's hard for me to say this and but you know in actuality it was all because of her, like based off the effects that happened. So I took my past trauma into every other relationship that I even attempted.
Yeah, and the thing about unforgiveness is a lot of times people, when we talk about unforgiveness, they imagine like acts of anger and acts of revenge and acts of, hurting other people. But sometimes when we're harboring unforgiveness, right, that can look like what you said, like holding yourself off, not taking chances, not letting yourself grow, and just letting that consume you to a point where you can't move on and you can't live your best life and you're not free and you're captive to that unforgiveness.
Exactly.
So, I mean, again, like that's why I love this show, is because the dynamic aspects of forgiveness that we talk about. Vinny, thank you, by the way. It looks different. While we have that definition, it looks so different in every person's story. So, I mean, sometimes it's like really active hatred, like I'm gonna go hurt you, and sometimes it's hurting ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, you really beat yourself over like a relationship where you thought like it was the one. Like I'm pretty sure it all happened to each and every one of us at some point in our life, or the majority of us in here. And like, that's like a learning experience. That's not something you just
Absolutely.
easily go through. Like that's something like if you never went through it, you couldn't probably relate to it because the feeling is unimaginable.
I can tell you from personal experience, and I can tell my stream with personal experience, the feeling of being abandoned by someone that you love more than anyone in the world is the worst pain there is. I mean, I've lost loved ones. I remember the pain I felt when I lost my grandmother. Nothing hurts that bad, and it permeates every aspect of your thought, every aspect of your feelings. It permeates every aspect of what you understand about the world. It's a pain unlike anything other you'll ever experience. So I completely understand. Um, so she came out of the treatment center. You were able to kind of release some of that, release that resentment you held towards her. And what happened next? What happened after you were able to forgive her? How did your life change after that?
Um, so before like I didn't want to be around her, so we had and like she would like try to make attempts, but like I kept it like mutual to where like her parents or my parents met up to like exchange the kid. Well, we took it slow. Like I would meet her at her place and drop off my kid, and she watch or whatever. I pick her up. We have casual conversation that naturally progressed back into the friendship we used to have, just without the relationship that made
Right,
us like date. But we're just a friendship.
right. And you you said you think that would, if you weren't able to forgive, that would not have been possible. Y'all would not have been able to build that friendship.
No, no, because I know people that co-parent or used to date that can't talk, and and can't be in the same room with each other. So I'm blessed. I'm truly blessed because like I got a problem with like getting rid of people out of my life. Like
So
I
you
hate
have a problem like you
let
get rid of them too easily, or you keep them around too long.
I just sometimes I give people too many chances. And so, you
I've been
know,
there.
I think I have a problem with that maybe. I don't know. And that's so sometimes I overextend myself and say, because I look for the better in people. I look for the better in people. Sometimes people just need that extra little push.
Right. I think that's a beautiful quality. I think that is, I mean, that's something I do as well. I try to see, I tell people I try to see God in everybody. I try to see people the way God sees them. You know what I mean? Because, if I can see you the way God sees you, I can love you the way God loves you. Which is not easy to do because we don't have the power and the patience and the mercy of God. Uh,
Exactly. Facts.
but we, we,
Facts.
we
For
do.
sure, for sure. Like, and so if like I couldn't find that peace with her and like we couldn't go through the steps, I don't think we could have been in the same room today because
Right.
that's how deep I was hurt by that.
Right. You had mentioned that when you were harboring on to that like resentment and everything, that you found yourself being closed off, not opening up. Have you found that since kind of releasing a lot of that hatred that you had towards her, has that helped you relate better to other people now and not be so closed off?
Yeah, exactly. So when we took the initial steps and I was able to like actually have a decent conversation with her, and you know i I actually forgave her and I felt good about that, but actually like I was able to actually hold a conversation with people and not just cut them off when I felt like they got too close. If I was actually interested in them, I took the next step. Or just like in just friendship relationships too, like just because you go through a lot with that. But yeah, you got to go through the motions. You got to go through the motions, and
Um,
go through the motions is
one of the
definitely helps.
one of the things that you said just now kind of made me, I I've never thought about this before. It sounded like you said when you were able to finally forgive, you were able to actually start to learn better because like when you're dealing with people, like you were able to kind of learn, hey, here are my healthy boundaries. Would you say that forgiving has actually helped you to learn better?
Yeah, yeah. Like when you forgive people, like people don't understand. Like when you harbor like grudges or ill thoughts or discrepancies, even minute ones or arguments with people, it kind of tends to stress you out. And stress is a killer of all humans. And so the more stress free you can live your life, the better you can live your best life. You know, and
Bro,
everybody should want to live their best life. And so you can't be stressed out and wondering what if or what is that hasn't, or was. So
that's so true. And like if we're harboring on to that resentment and toxicity, we're not going to be able to, when we're dealing with other people, learn from our mistakes as well, because that toxicity is clouding our judgment, it's clouding our feelings. So, how can I learn healthy boundaries with the next person if I'm still letting the toxicity cloud my thoughts and my feelings? Like seriously, I've never thought about that until you said. That's what I love having different guests on here. But yeah, like it helps you learn, you learn people better, because if you're harboring onto that toxicity, right, how am I going to develop and learn from my mistakes? How am I going to learn from my next mistakes if I'm still harboring on all that hatred?
exactly, exactly. I,
Holy crap. Ted didn't think of that. See, this is why I love having new guests on this show, man, is because I learn something new every week. What would you say to someone? Because I know a lot of us, I'm not going to ask people to put a one in the comment section because I think a lot of us might not want to admit it, but I think a lot of us out there have been abandoned in our lives by someone we loved more than anyone else in the whole world. And God, it sucks. What would you say to someone who listens to that and was like, bro, y'all were together for 4 years, then y'all had a child, then you stayed home and raised the kid while she went out and partying? She doesn't deserve your forgiveness, bro. She doesn't deserve your grace. What would you say to that person?
no, actually, I have people and friends that mutual friends. That's what I say. It'd even help you to learn friends because, like, and help you with friendships going through hurt and going through the motions of this, because obviously you're intertwined, so your friends are intertwined, so people choose sides, and then people that was chose this side later seeing this side, I'm like, whoa, we was, so people have a lot to say, so you can't focus on that because it's not good for your mental health or
Right.
your well-being or who you are. You have to focus on bettering yourself and helping yourself get over that hurdle. You got to do it one step at a time, no matter who say what. You got to block everything out, because if you ain't right, you can't be right for your mom. You can't be right for your best friend. You can't be right for your dad. If you got kids, you can't really be right for your kids. You have to be right for yourself first and foremost to be right for anybody else.
So for someone out there who's maybe dealing with that right now, maybe someone's still struggling through the hurt of being abandoned, or the hurt of a breakup, or the hurt of being betrayed, um, what would you tell that person is a good first step in order to get to that point?
Self-reflection. Self-reflection.
Okay.
Take a self-reflection on your life. You can do it short term or long term. You can do it 2 weeks at a time. I like to do that sometimes. I do it months at a time. You look at your life in perspective. Don't try to set a long like perspective. Let's say, hey, how did my life go the last 3 months? What could I have done better? Is anybody mad at me in them 3 months? Why are they mad at me? Did I do something to cause that? What do I need to change about my life and fix me? So how come I haven't hit that goal that I set 3 years ago? Where am I at now in my life to where I can hit that goal? Am I on that path? Why am I not on that path? Learn yourself with self-reflection.
What you just said is literally the other side to the coin of what I always say all the time, is that when you go through something like this, you got to focus on what you can control, right? Because when that happens, oh God, I know, guys, it's the worst pain in the world. I get it. But when that happens, right, we focus on all the wrong, our nature is to focus on all the wrong things, right? Like, what can I do to get her back? Oh, what could I have done differently?
Exactly.
I mean, you focus on all these things that you have no control over, and instead you're saying, what can I learn from this? What can I learn about myself? So what do I have control over, basically, so that the next time I can come at this from a more healthy perspective.
Exactly. I totally agree, man.
Did you ever like journal? I know that's sometimes something some people do. I never got into it personally. I was told to by my therapist, but I just couldn't do
No,
it.
so like so I really like, so when I'm hurt, or like when I'm like, I like to channel my energy into something like I love. So like I started working out even harder, or like I write short stories. So I take like passion with writing short stories. So like I write short stories. I never share them with anybody but myself. I go back and I read them and I laugh when I need a good laugh. I'll be like, God, did I write that? You know?
Yeah,
So I like channeling my energy into other things that make me happy and focus on things like that. Wow, doing the self reflection, because you gotta channel that bad energy
right.
to good energy and change it. And somehow you gotta change it. So you gotta focus on things you like in life. And
That's the
things to be free. They
this
don't always
is
cost money.
this is straight up wisdom right here, because I mean, like, really channel that energy into productive methods, even when you don't really feel like it. Because I think a lot of times, especially me, I remember, oh God, I'd be like, I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to get up in the morning. But if you can channel that towards healthy methods, then you'll be able to kind of kickstart a lot of that self-reflection that can help you learn. And my therapist tried to tell me to get to journal, and I was like, listen, the last thing I'm going to do is read something from that I wrote 3 months ago about where I was, and be like, what the hell was I thinking? I'm not trying to know, like, loop back and go, oh Lord, man, I was messed up as hell that day. I'm not trying to do that.
So I share this real quick. So actually one day uh I was on my live stream and I was actually looking for a paper, and I found this journal I wrote freshman year, and it was telling me on how I should date women. And I wrote it to myself, and if I would have listened to my younger self, Like I swear I was reading it to my screen and it was crazy.
Yeah, like your younger self was spitting truth.
So journals are cool. Sometimes you might want to jot something down, and you might not want to call it per se a journal, but it's just like a reminder book. You might have this thought and then want to go back and remind yourself years later.
We got to wrap things up, but I have so many questions I could ask you. Do you find yourself now when people hurt you? Do you find that letting go of such a significant trauma and forgiving for such a significant trauma, do you find that has made it easier to forgive other people in your life?
I would say no, because every situation is different and no two hurts are the same. And so each situation you have to approach differently. So it depends on, like, I'm not going to, versus if my mom hurt me or if my friend hurt me. I'm going to be more upset if my mom disappointed me than my friend.
Okay. Hey, honest answer, fair answer. I appreciate it. I appreciate it when people tell me what they really think and such. Oh yeah, more, of course, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, I just to be honest,
No, I appreciate it, man. I keep it 100.
I don't want to put it in a nutshell to where, and that'd be like saying like people are like cookie, because everybody got their own personality.
Right. And every situation is different. One more question. If you could kind of go back, you talk about when you were harboring all that hatred for your ex, and if you could go back right now and tell young D'Angelo, young, hateful, despiteful D'Angelo, one thing, be like, listen, man, know this, what would you tell yourself?
I tell myself it just wasn't her fault. She just wanted to live her best life.
Yeah.
And I think if I would have actually told myself looking back that, I would have understood the situation better.
Yeah. It's a hard pill to swallow, but I mean, it's good advice. It's good advice, and definitely advice that I respect you for it. Guys, if you're joining us, this is D'Angelo, and he shared his forgiveness story with us. This is Forgiveness Culture. We do this show every week, every Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern, where we bring guests who share their stories of forgiving someone in their life. D'Angelo, before we let you go, tell us, find you live.
Okay, well, I go live daily, usually at 7 Central, 8 Eastern. We usually just kick back. We got a lot of, cause of the show. Everybody, since the show been a hit, like everybody want to come and discuss topics. So a lot of my guests will come and just hang out, and they might have a situation in life and they throw it out and everybody give their opinion, or they might have a topic and want to see what everybody thinks. So like we got so many diverse people in my live that I love having the different opinions from different people, and that's why I enjoy live streaming, because it brings people from around the world together. Because essentially, I'm in your home, you're in my home, and everybody here are in our homes.
Right. Y'all, please make sure to hit the favorite on D'Angelo. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It was an honor and a privilege to have you, bro. A lot of facts, a lot of stuff for us to digest, and I'm sure that everyone who's here can take something away from what you said here tonight, man. So thank you for sharing.
All right, brother, you have a good night. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Prayers to Ukraine, y'all. Prayers to Ukraine.
Yes, absolutely, guys. That was our show here for tonight. As I'm winding down here, if you have any questions, now is the time. If you have any questions about what was shared earlier or about what we do here on the show, now would be the time to ask it. I am going to say, if you have a forgiveness story, if you're watching the show and you would like to share your story, hey, Moore, I had someone who hurt me and I would like to talk about forgiving that person, reach out to me on Instagram. Please click my bio right here. There's a link to my Instagram in the bio. Even if you don't have a story, please go ahead and follow me on Instagram. I put a lot of content out there. And starting next week, we're going to be starting a TikTok, a forgiveness culture TikTok. So make sure y'all favorite me and follow me on Instagram so that you guys can keep abreast of all that content going on. And if you have a story, please reach out to me and share that story. We have another show next week, guys. We're live every Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern. So make sure y'all tune in every week. As is our tradition, we are going to reveal who next week's guest is now. We like to reveal it at the end of every show. And next week's guest is someone, if you're a regular in my stream, needs no introduction. It is Loves 80s, my #1 all time. She is a big supporter of the stream. And not only that, she is an amazing friend of mine. And she is going to be sharing a story next week on forgiveness culture. So you guys make sure to tune in next Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern for her show. Guys, again, thank you to she said, listen, I'm gonna kick someone out too. Listen, I'm also the bouncer. She said, I'm also the bouncer for the stream. So but she will be sharing a story next week, and hopefully our normal bouncer will be back here next week. So thank you all for tuning in, guys. It was a very, very, very good show tonight, guys. D'Angelo did an amazing job. I hope you all were both inspired and or motivated and challenged by the statement that I made earlier on the crisis in Ukraine. It's something that I feel very, very powerful about. It's something that I'm really kind of surprised I got through without tearing up, to be completely honest with you, because it's something like, I got a lot of family and friends over there. As you can see, I'm wearing my Peace Corps Ukraine lapel pin right here. So it's a difficult time, guys. We got to pray for peace. We got to pray for people's safety, regardless of whatever your feelings are on the matter. We want peace, and that's something that I think that we can all agree on. Joey, Slava Ukraini, Slava Ukraini. I'm not Ukrainian, but I was a Peace Corps volunteer for almost 3 years in Ukraine. And the situation is something that really hits close to home. I have very, very good friends and family who are there right now. And it's difficult. It's a rough time, but we're praying for peace, and we're praying for those. I was stationed in Zhytomyr and around Zhytomyrska Oblast. So I was around different villages and in the city of Zhytomyr. I did a little work in Ternopil and I can never say the city's name. Dnipropetrovsk. That's like literally the hardest city in Ukraine. They said that it was the last city that to not be attacked. I think it's because no one can pronounce the names. Dnipropetrovsk. It's very, very hard name to say, but I did some work over there, and of course I did a lot of work in Kiev as well, the capital. So yeah, it's Dnipro, yeah, pretty much Dnipropetrovsk. It's a very hard name to say, but we pray for them. We just hope that everyone stays safe, and we hope that for the rest of us that we don't turn to hatred during this time. We're not going to hate people. We're not going to let emotional reactivity dictate what happens. I wear blue and yellow tomorrow. I tried to wear blue and yellow. There's blue and yellow. I don't know if you guys can see this, but I got blue and yellow. This is the closest thing I had. So yeah, it's blue and yellow, but anyways, yeah. Almost at the end of the show, guys. We got about 60 seconds left. Thank you to everybody who came here. Thank you for all the gifts. Let me give a special shout out to Vinny's World, Blake Premier and Chris Casper, Chelsea, Luigi, Tamara, D'Angelo, Divine, Boss Bro, Mr. Moon, Classy Woman, Aaron, Kiki, and everybody else who gifted. Big thank you for that, guys. I will be out of town. Guys, I am going out of town on Friday, so I will not be. She's like, I wanted to keep kicking. I won't be streaming probably for the rest of the week. And my major course project for grad school is due this weekend. And yeah, I haven't started it yet. So I'm going to be pretty busy over the next few days. And I'm going out of town on Friday. So yes, D'Angelo did a great job. So I will be back most likely Monday. No, I'm not going to. I actually probably may not be back until next Wednesday because I got a lot to do, but I will be streaming a lot next weekend. But yes, anyways, guys, we're going to end this show the same way we always do, guys. Remember that it costs nothing to be nice and it's free to be kind. So treat other people with love and make the world a better place. And if you can't make the world a better place, at least don't make it worse. Y'all have a great night.